Really appreciate everyone being here with me this evening, taking some time for some professional and personal development. Wave. Hi, everybody. Okay. I feel like people can filter in if they're running a little late. I really appreciate everyone being here with me tonight. If you can't hear me, or you have any issues, feel free to message me in the chat, say hi in the chat. If I miss your message, I will glance over. I will see it. I love seeing some engagement. I would like to launch us with a quick poll about networking. There's just 2 questions. It should pop up on your screen. If you haven't used Zoom before, it really kind of forces its way into your viewpoint. So if you have an issue not seeing the poll, though, let me know. It's 2 questions. The first one is, because of networking, and then select all that apply. And the second question is, I want to become a master at networking because. So we'll wait till we have at least half of people. Got about 48, oh, we're over 50. Okay, I'll wait a few more seconds. It looks like we got some more respondents coming in. This topic is so important right now. I mean, if you're launching a business, if you're looking for a new job, if you're looking to just build a professional network, if you're looking to learn about careers, even just make some friends, how we used to is pretty much gone. I mean, in some instances it's there, but in some it's still not. And so how do we take advantage of basically global access right now and the fact that everyone's at home, and leverage some of our skills in networking, maybe learn some new ones in the process, hopefully tonight, to get an interview, to get hired, to make friends, to learn about careers, to even start a company, to find a partner. So we've had, let's see, 80% of people voted. I'll give another 10 seconds and then I'll share the results. Yes, I love how people are putting their LinkedIn profiles in the chat. Please do. I love seeing that. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to share the polling. So because of networking, we've had a third of people here gotten an interview. We have some people who were hired for jobs, made new friends. A lot of people have made new professional relationships. They learned about the career they might want. Started a company, cool. I'd like to hear about that. Connect with me, let me hear about it, please. And then tonight, some people are here to find a new job. Some people are here to start a company or learn about networking to do these things, to find a partner to start a company. So there might be some synchronicity here. Talk about what you want, please share. I also use networking for a lot of these. We have a third looking to sell products or services, make some new friends, make new professional relationships. A lot of opportunity with the people that are here. We have 28 people here attending. I bet they fit into some of these categories. Learn about certain career paths, and I'm happy everyone is here for professional and personal networking, not for computer and internet services. Thank you very much. I'm happy that you read the description. By the way, if you ever Google networking, at least half the results are usually about computer services. So thank you so much for engaging in that poll, giving me an idea of where everyone is. And if you haven't yet, you can use the chat box. You can click the little chat icon at the bottom of your screen if you're using a computer. It's on your phone, I think, if you hit like the little dots to see more. But talk about what you just voted on. Like if you want to find a new job, talk about the industry you're looking for a new job in. Talk about the company that you might want to start and you're looking for a partner in. You can even talk about your services. This is free reign. And if you're looking to make new friends and just connect, I see some people posting their LinkedIn profile link. Or if you're looking to learn more about certain career paths, put that in the chat as well. We'll have a time to actually talk, but this is a great opportunity for you to put yourself out there a little bit. And the people that are on tonight's event are interested in also having conversations. That's why they're here. So let's take advantage of that. So in the next couple slides, as I talk about myself a little bit and about the event and the agenda, feel free to use this time to also include this in the chat box. So my name is Dr. Benjamin Ritter. I am the founder of Live for Yourself Consulting, where I basically coach and guide individuals to create a career that they love. If it's launching a business that's aligned with their values, scaling that business, if it's pivoting into an industry that is more value aligned with who they are at their core and the work they want to do, or if it's crafting your current job, maybe you love your organization, but you'd like to get promoted or take on a different type of work, or maybe you're struggling with issues at work in itself. Those are the types of clients that I work with. I mean, I was there before. I was stuck. I didn't feel like my work was meaningful. I didn't know how to take action that was aligned with who I was, so I wouldn't feel like that again. And I decided to make a change in my professional and personal life, to be honest. But with everything that I did and with all the clients that I work with in any of those categories, networking is key. Like it is, if you're not putting your voice out there, your message out there, if you're not selling, you're not building relationships, if you're not learning, then you're missing out on just such valuable opportunities. I mean, like, to be honest, right, would you even be successful? So networking is critical to your success in your personal life, in your professional life, if you're looking to launch a business. So I cannot stress that enough. So tonight we're going to talk initially about your virtual event mindset. This wasn't going to be a part of the workshop, but as I was putting this together, it dawned on me that a lot of people might be missing out on a great opportunity that comes from attending a workshop, an event. We're next going to talk about networking in a virtual world, about building your brand, about the outreach itself, about how to solidify those relationships. And then I'm going to leave some time for Q&A. I also really hope we have some time to discuss LinkedIn specifically, because that is a cornerstone of my business. And so I created an infographic. I have a little activity for us. If we reach the top of the hour, I will keep going for people that would like to stay for a little bit. It will be part of the recording, so everyone that attends will get a link to that, and also all the slides tonight. So don't feel like you have to frantically take notes about anything, because there will be a lot of action items for you and pro tips. You will receive all this information, so make sure to check your inbox after the event. So first off, the virtual event mindset, right? We have been inundated with events. Yeah, you're here. I'm surprised you're still here, because there have been so many different workshops. Even tonight, there were like 4 or 5 different things, and I was like, wait, I want to attend to that. So why are we attending them? How do we attend them? Like, how do we get the most out of them? And to be honest, I mean, when I do attend a virtual event, first off, I have to decide if I'm actually going to attend. Like, I may RSVP, but I may not show up, right? There's 29 people in this call. There was almost 100 people that RSVP'd. So it's, am I actually going to show up, even though I'm saying that I might? So then you sign on, you listen sometimes. You probably listen a little bit more if your video's on or if you have to talk, especially if they're like breakout rooms and some level of engagement. So you may engage, you may not. And something else might come up, right? Maybe you're cooking dinner, maybe you have other plans, maybe you're driving somewhere right now and you wanted to hear just a little bit about it. So you sign off early sometimes, and then there'll be a follow-up email. And you hit delete, and you don't open it up, you don't read it. I've done this, and I know, right, full disclosure, people on this call probably have done it. If you know, be honest about this. And so I think we're missing out on a great opportunity here if we act like this in virtual events. Like, for example, in comparison, in an in-person event, I know that I would prep. I would like look up an attendance list who might be there. I will do some research on the speakers. I'll invite a friend because I don't want to go alone. And I might even plot out like who I want to talk to that's there. And even strategize, like, well, how am I going to actually get to talk to them? When I get there, and if there's name tags, I'll do something funny or cute and just to stand out. I'll make sure that I get a good lay of the land. I'll scope out the entire room and like specifically walk up to people, become a little bit uncomfortable, and introduce myself. During the event, I'll listen intently. I won't talk to other people. I won't be on my phone. I'll be taking notes. And then afterwards, I don't run away. I introduce myself to the people that are still there. Like, it's still an opportunity to connect. And then afterwards, this is where like the gold comes in with a lot of the in-person events. You follow up with new contacts. You reach out to the host, potentially the sponsors or speakers. I mean, sometimes you even post about the event itself. You tag people. You try to get some more exposure that way. So really different than how, I mean, I've been acting in virtual events and how I know people are too. So what I'd like to suggest for everybody is to start acting in a virtual event like you would in an in-person event. So if you're going to attend a virtual event, do the research. You know, surround yourself with a topic before, like listen to a podcast about it, read an article about it, be informed. So you have something to potentially say in the chat box. Do your research on the speakers, connect to them prior. Maybe even post the event itself and tag the speakers. If you can see the attendees, like you can in some instances, look them up, connect with them beforehand. Hey, I see you're going to this event. I'd love to hear a little bit about what interests you in that event. So can you prep? Can you do a little bit of research for the virtual event? So check that off the list. Next, set an intention and purpose. What is your goal? Is it to learn one specific thing to solve a problem that you have? Is it to connect with one specific person in the chat box? Is it to connect with one of the speakers? What is your purpose? Have an intent. You will show up much more strongly if that's the case. And so all of you right now have the ability to rename yourself. I see a couple people. I see one person has, I believe. You have the opportunity right now to change your name to where you're from, what you're interested in, the name of your business, the industry that you're a part of, the company that you're working for. And that gives people an extra incentive, right, to private message you and say, oh, great, you work for this person. I'd love to connect off this virtual event. So try to use that as well as like a name tag. And then it's okay to engage with participants. So you see someone post something in the chat box. I just had a really great connection phone call with someone who was in a virtual event with me, posted something about her business. I was really interested in the work she was doing. And this is now leading to workshops. It's leading to other people that I can connect with. And so participate in the chat box, connect with people. It's okay. I won't be offended if you're having a conversation. You can also private message. And so when you get the follow-up email, I also highly recommend to read and respond to that follow-up email. You can respond directly to it from the person that sent it. You can post about something that you've read in it online and tag the event. But it's an opportunity for you to have more follow-up, to make greater connections. And man, as an event host, I love it when people reach out to me. I love it when people post about the event, talk about how they felt about it, what takeaways they had. You will stand out in my book, and other people that attended an event might even reach out to you based on that too. And then most importantly, if you have connected with people, follow up, follow up, follow up. I don't know how many times I've had like a one-off conversation with someone, thought they were pretty interesting, but they were connecting with me as more like a mentor relationship or some assistance relationship. And then it falls off. Like I don't hear from the person for 2 years and they reach back out and ask for something. So how can you follow up with your connections to build a relationship where you're giving value as well as if you want to receive value? So think about this, create this checklist for yourself before you attend an event and after you attend an event. Give yourself really just a nice, 6-point to-do like this. You'll get these slides and check them off. And I promise you, you will start gaining more from the time that you're investing, because you're investing time right now in the event itself. Okay, so today, some rules, some fun rules, hopefully. So set an intention. I actually would love for you to share that intention in the chat box if you can. Like, what are you here for? Set that intention. Let's set a purpose. Turn your video on if you can. I know some people don't want to turn their video on, but it's fine. But turn it on if you can. Mute when you're not speaking. You're all doing that. Thank you so much. Participate, engage in the chat box, and please respect each other. Nothing sticks out like a sore thumb right when someone is being rude. And I haven't really experienced it that much in an online event, but it's very much a yes and environment. Like, oh, okay, I see your point and something else. So build off of other people's statements and conversations or add your own. Feel free to engage. So, okay, so networking in a virtual world itself, or that's what I think probably initially came here for. How do we network just in the midst of LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook, email, where we don't get to actually go into an event, we don't get to walk into an office, we don't get to go have tea at a Starbucks or something like that. How do we make networking work for us? How do we build relationships? So the first thing that you need to get very clear on before you even conduct any outreach is to build your brand. And we all have a brand, right? It's not like Nike or McDonald's, not those brands, but our personal brands. What makes you memorable? Why, if I had a conversation with you, would I remember who you are? And this really comes down to understanding like your values, what you're passionate about. What do you stand for? What do people say about you? What do you want to be known for? And ask yourself these questions and really take at least 15 minutes and answer them. It really helps if you explore some of your past memories and past milestones, looking at where you've been excited, where you've been passionate, what your strengths are. This will all help you create a kind of like an elevator pitch of who you are. And then after you figure out who you are, what your brand is, what you think it might be, because it will change over time. Don't worry about it being perfect. Very often people don't reach out because they're worried about things being perfect. Look at your online content. Look at your profiles. Look at even your email address. My old email address was silverspirit7. Can you imagine if I was sending workshop requests and podcast appearances with that name? So are you aligned online? In social media, on LinkedIn, in your email, even the things that you post, the things that you like, the things that you share, does it align with your brand? If you told me your brand and then I did an audit of everything that you have online, would it make sense? And if it doesn't, now it's time to start. And this also means like, are you spending your time ingesting material that relates to your brand? So for example, I'm in leadership, I'm in career pivots, I'm in entrepreneurship, I'm in empowerment. Am I reading books about that? Am I listening to podcasts about that? Before this event, was I looking up information about networking? That is really important. That creates that it might not be external, but it creates an internal brand, it solidifies that. So then you're actually more able to communicate what you care about to other people. After you do this, and this is why it's so important, right? Because during outreach, you're going to have to be memorable, have your brand be memorable. You want to create an elevator pitch. And the template that I like for the elevator pitch is like your street cred. So what are you known for? What's your experience in? What are you passionate about? And then what vision do you have in the future? What challenges do you want to face? What do you want to learn? Who do you want to meet? And if you can get that succinct, that short paragraph succinct, you will become memorable. And you can support that with stories about your experience, about your life, which you've used to actually figure out what your brand is, or about things that you're passionate about in the future. And if let's say you're just a student and you're looking to learn more about your first jobs, that's a story. That's okay. Where do you go to school? Why are you interested in this? What have you learned so far? What do you hope to be? So nothing is too little to be a brand. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to get the conversation going and start building that relationship. So what I'd like everyone to do moving forwards, this is an action item for you after today's event. Go online, review your presence, and see if it reflects your brand. I even would recommend asking someone their own opinion, the people closest to you. So if you were just like browsing my profiles online, what do you think were my strengths? What do you think I'd be good at? What do you think I'd be passionate about? You can even ask a stranger, someone that you connect with. Hey, I'm trying to learn more about networking and my brand. What do you feel about who I am based on what you see on my online profiles? Try it out. And remember, you'll get this slide deck afterwards, so don't worry too much about writing everything down. But doing these to-dos can can add a ton more value. It's like reading a book and it tells you to do an activity, but you just kind of skim over it and don't do it. I really recommend that you do these action items, and there'll be a few throughout the workshop. So this is the time where all of you get to actually practice. I am going to split everyone up into breakout rooms, and I want you to unmute, turn your video on, connect with people, and share, right? Share your response to tell me about yourself. And I have an example here, and I'll put it in the chat. Like for me, I have a background in organizational leadership, the development of leaders, and over 10 years of experience in coaching and entrepreneurship. My mission is to guide others towards a career they love, either through navigating their current job, reaching that next step in their career, pivoting into a new industry, or launching a business. Overall, I hope to instill my beliefs into the culture and perception of work we have as a society today. And so just test out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just if someone says, tell me about yourself, think about street cred, passion, and vision. And I'm going to put this in the chat box so you have it as well. And you're going to have about 10 minutes to do this. There's going to be probably about 4 people in a room or so. Let's see, recreate the rooms. Do you guys have any questions? You can put it in the chat box. No? Okay, we have 10 minutes. I wish you all have a lot of fun, get to know each other a little bit, and I'll see you soon. Please join the breakout rooms. Ten seconds. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'd love for you to share in the chat how that was. Was it easy? Was it fun? Was it tough? Did you run out of things to talk about? Did you meet someone interesting? Did you learn more about yourself through trying out this exercise? Or even hearing other people share their own stories? Please share it in the chat box. I love looking at everyone's comments. But I really do appreciate you taking the time to test that out and to try it. Usually whenever we do breakout sessions, it can be tough because some people drop off because they're not looking to engage. And that's where I'd challenge you. If you were to go into a virtual event, can you be present? Can you have that level of intention where I'm going to talk, I'm going to be in the breakout room? Someone said that there wasn't enough time, so I apologize. In this hour, I'm trying to fit a lot in. But feel free to connect with me. I'd love to try this exercise out with you after this. Really looking forward to reading through everybody's comments. But we're all in this together. And when one person starts talking, it helps another person start talking, and it can build on itself to where 10 minutes seems like it just flies by. So this helps kind of lead into this idea of what mindset you need to have for outreach when you're networking. First off, you have the right and permission to reach out to anyone. I don't care who it is. You do not need to be given a permission slip. The person that you want to talk to doesn't have to email you and say, yeah, you can talk to me. You can reach out to anyone as long as you're doing it in a respectful way, that you're basically being appreciative in a way, you're not trying to take. Like, you have that right. And to that point, the only way to get a yes is to risk getting a no. If you don't put yourself out there, nothing's ever going to happen. And like, to that point, a no is really just someone most of the time ignoring you. And when it comes to online networking, it's different than in person. Like, you're not walking up to someone and they're just turning away and ignoring you completely. Like, they're literally might not even be reading your message. They might not be signing online. So the goal isn't to connect with someone. It's to find the people that want to connect. Like, the goal is to find people that want to engage with you, not to count the people that don't want to engage. And so it's so simple for someone not to open an email. It's so simple for someone not to respond to a message. So why do we count them? Why do we care about them? Let's focus on the people that want to talk to us. And what's so neat about virtual connecting is that in person, someone might just be respectful. They might just say, you know, they'll give you 10, 15 minutes of their time to you. But online, like the people that actually give you 30 minutes, that give you 20 minutes, and maybe give you an hour, those are the connectors. Those are people that are going to be valuable in your life forever if you nurture those relationships. And so outreach is a balance of quality. It's targeted, right, based on what you care about. We'll talk about that. But then also quantity, because we have to find these connectors, and then consistency, because if we don't keep doing it, then it's just, we're not going to find new people to talk to, because people are going to ignore your messages. They're going to ignore your outreach. So about the actual outreach, what do we do? How do we do this? How do we reach out? The first step would be to treat this like another job almost, or something, or hobby, even something fun. It's a creative activity. So can you block specific times in your calendar for the week for like outreach and connection? And that can be, you know, you could do it when you're watching TV. You can do it when you're having lunch. You can do it kind of usually during mindless activities. I'll show you a simple strategy to do it in. But then also block some specific time where you're going to have the ability to focus, to be able to have a 20-minute call or so. But make sure you're giving yourself a little bit of a buffer, because having too many calls in a row can be really exhausting, especially if you're using video, if you're using Zoom. There's something, it takes more energy to, like, you're giving a lot more energy than you're not receiving, because the person's on in front of you, you don't get to feel their energy and that momentum. So be aware of that. If you're feeling drained when you're networking, that could be very much be wise, or give yourself some more space. Your outreach should be very targeted in a way where you at least have like 5 to 10 organizations, or if you're looking, you know, at job titles, or topics, things you're interested in that you're going to focus on, that you're going to want to learn more about. That just helps you become a little bit more narrow and focused, and ensures that you're gaining value from your outreach. Before you actually reach out, you want to add value. And what I mean by adding value is to somehow engage or support the connection, if possible. This isn't always possible, before you actually reach out to them. And if anything, it's something that you can do after you connect, because you're connected, and so you kind of know what they're interested in. But this can be something as simple as sharing an article related to their industry, sharing something that they were featured in that maybe they haven't seen. If you're talking about LinkedIn, it could be liking one of their posts. It could be commenting on a post that they've liked on, because LinkedIn shows you that. But it's giving them something before you're asking for that introductory call. It could even be just sharing something that they've done and tagging them in it somehow, if it's on some social media platform. There are tons of ways to give value to someone, to be of support before asking. And those are just a couple. I mean, we can get into some more if you want to reach out to me afterwards, or maybe during this event. During outreach, there's a lot of ways to find people. You can ask your network for people that relate to the 5 or 10 organizations, topics, or job titles that you're interested in. You can connect with people. You can find them on social platforms like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You really can find people anywhere, through organizations, through virtual meetups such as this. So if you're wondering, where do I find people? Well, there's a ton of different strategies. You can try one. If it doesn't work, try the other. And by not work, I mean, if you send 100 messages, do you get 10 to 20 connections and conversations? That's a pretty good success rate. So when you are reaching out to someone, I'll show you a sample message. Less is more, especially in the initial message. People don't want to read a lot. So be very clear. This is who I am. This is what I appreciate about you. Maybe even this is where I found you, or a way to add value, something positive about that. That's a really simple way to add value. And this is what I'm interested in. Would you like to have a short phone call or short Zoom? And I'll show you a sample message again. But what I'd love everyone to do is to basically identify one organization that you want to connect with, and then schedule block 30 minutes this week to connect with 3 people that work there, or 3 people that are part of it. Something you want to learn. And if it's not organizations you want to connect with, topics or job titles. But right now, if you can, open up your calendar. You're not going to miss anything. Find 30 minutes and just label it like networking time. If it's on your calendar, it exists. If it's on a piece of paper in front of your computer when you wake up, it exists. You're more likely to do it. And just a tip, if you're wondering, how do I find someone's contact information? There are some pretty cool tips. Like if you don't want to use LinkedIn, you're not on LinkedIn, I highly recommend everyone to be on LinkedIn. Or if you don't find them on Instagram, or if you don't find them on Facebook, there are other tools like Zoom Info. You can look that one up, or Rocket Reach. You can literally type someone's name in or their LinkedIn profile and get their email address and get their contact information. And it's okay to send a message that's simple, especially if you add value before, to ask them to connect to that information. So when you are reaching out, just a sample message, it really is this simple. It's really great to connect. And I'm impressed with whatever you want to put here, a recent article, a recent podcast you were on, something that you posted online, a position that they're in their company, something to show that you know who they are, what they do, and you appreciate them. And would you have 15 to 20 minutes in the coming week for a short introductory call and to learn more about XYZ? This message is for your career journey. If yes, I can respond with a couple of dates and times, or please let me know what works best for you. And so a lot of people will recommend to actually put dates and times here, but this can make networking a lot harder because then you're blocking out time on your calendar, putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and you limit the amount of people you can reach out to by doing that because you think, oh, I might not have enough time, but then no one responds or two people respond and you have a ton of free spaces. So it's best to leave this a little general. You can even say, I know you're really busy, so please let me know what works best for you, or I can respond with a couple dates and times. And I'll send this all out. You'll get these slides if you want this template as well. So during the actual conversation, because we are virtual, if it is on Zoom, if it is on video, think about the setting first. Now you don't have to wear a suit, but do you have the right lighting? Do you look okay on camera? Are you in, are you near somewhere that's noisy, that people are going to be walking by? That can be very distracting for the person you're talking to, and they tend to then label you as someone that might not be as professional. So think about the setting that you're in. And if you know you're not going to be somewhere where you're going to have that setting, then go for a phone call. And I promise you, people I'm connecting with do appreciate having phone calls now because they're on Zoom all day. Make sure you prepare a set agenda and a couple questions about them, about what they know. Almost treat it like a mentor type of relationship, even if they're a peer. And you don't have to stick to this agenda specifically, but it does help when you introduce yourself to talk about what you're there for, because they're going to ask, what's the purpose of this? And you don't need to have some overwhelming, global, impactful purpose. It can be something as simple as, I've been really impressed by the work you're doing. I've been curious about this field. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you got there. Just something as simple as that. But that in itself is an agenda. Make sure during the conversation you're being present, and instead of jumping from question to question, you're building on what they're saying, either by sharing your own stories so they learn more about you, but then asking questions about what they are saying. It's really important for the flow of a conversation to not make it feel like an interview, but to make it feel like you're just having a friendly conversation. Like, think about it, when you're with a friend and they're talking about somewhere they went, you ask more questions about that, or about travel, or about something in their stories. You don't jump and then ask them about, well, what is your vision for the next 3 years? So and that can only be possible if you're present in the conversation, so keep that front of mind. And please take notes. The notes are going to be important for the follow-up and building the relationship. And you can only really be present if you don't have distractions, and if you are in a place where you can take notes. So with a pen and paper or on your computer. And then you can even say, hey, by the way, I'm not looking off into the distance or working on something else. I'm actually taking notes. And they might actually be impressed on that if you're on video. So a quick action item for everybody. Create a list of 3 to 5 questions you can ask during a conversation with someone that kind of fits into your target that you're going to start reaching out to. And then prepare 2 stories about yourself that relate to those questions. So for me, I may share a story about why I'm interested in professional development when I had poor leadership. Or I might share a story about how I got into the coaching industry. Or I might share a story about, especially if I may be in a call with someone in a different coaching practice, something about prospecting to get their own opinion. Because if you share a story about something, the person you're talking to is going to also probably share a story about that or ask you follow-up questions about that. So you can sometimes use that strategy to, instead of having to ask a direct question that might seem a little intrusive, you can share a story about that topic, and then they will probably build on that. So afterwards, networking isn't about one conversation. Networking is very much about follow-up. It's about setting next steps, about building a relationship. So at the end of a call, make sure that you are setting next steps. If it's, do you mind if I reach out to you next quarter? Do you mind if I keep you up to date on the takeaways next month? So get their buy-in to that as well, because if maybe they don't want to follow up, and so you don't want to seem that you're overstepping the boundaries. But most of the time, people will just say yes, of course. And make a note that you should follow up with them to hold yourself accountable. And if you do follow up, you will be in the top 5% of people that have had conversations with this specific individual, I promise you. Offer value again. So specific information about something that they're working on, assistance in a project maybe they've mentioned or something that they're working on, or even say, hey, I met someone last week that I think it'd be great for you to talk to. It'd be like a win-win. Like bring that up in conversation, which is why networking actually builds exponentially upon itself, because the more people you meet, the more connections you can make. And that adds so much value to someone. You will be extremely memorable. And then you can actually ask for things. So often I see people have networking conversations and not get any value because they were afraid to ask. So ask for information, ask to be connected to someone that seems like it would be a good fit for you to speak to. So take whatever you're talking to them for and then say, do you know someone else that might be valuable to have a conversation with on this topic? And then track your conversations. And what I like to do too is I set reminders in my calendar to follow up with specific individuals. I also will then ask myself, like, out of the 10 conversations I had these past 2 weeks, where did this go great? Or where could I improve? So this is a process. It's a skill that builds over time. And tracking these conversations, this reflection will be really important in the long run. So action item, create a spreadsheet to track your most recent connections. So their name, I'll show you actually a sample spreadsheet. Just comments about them, when you talk to them, when you want to follow up with them, any important information. It doesn't have to be too extreme, but something for you to actually build a relationship from and to ensure that you follow up with these new connections. And it helps too, pro tip, if you set up Google alerts for these individuals. So for example, I have Google alerts for a bunch of companies that I've done corporate workshops for, and even individuals that I know are in the media. And so every week I will get alerts if they're in the media. So then I can take that article, take that information and send it to them and say, oh, did you see this? This is super neat. I love the work you're doing here. Would you like to follow up in a week? And that's simple. You don't even have to, it like literally comes into your inbox. So try that one out. So when I said connection tracker, it can be something as simple as this: date of last contact, name of the person that you spoke to, when you want to follow up, and maybe some takeaways, email, phone, or organization they're at, their title, their LinkedIn profile, because I mainly use LinkedIn, some overall comments. And then I like to usually have like date first connected to see how long we've actually known each other. So what works for you? Create a really simple document, once a week, update it, or I recommend doing it once a week, once a month. You can actually miss people, like review your calendar, add them into this spreadsheet. It will be so helpful in your networking endeavor. Okay, to summarize, know your brand, always be connecting, stand out by adding value, and have fun, because this is about just living an aligned life, right? We're supposed to get a job, to start a business. These are all things that we want to do, that we enjoy doing. So remember to have fun. If you're feeling pressure or feeling stressed, take a break, step back a little bit. We have about 10 minutes left, and I want to field some questions, but I also want to go through some of the LinkedIn information real quick. And so I can get through it in a couple minutes and then leave a little extra time for Q&A. So I'm going to dive right in and get your questions queued up, by the way, because right when I'm done with this, I'll open the floor and you guys can unmute, and I'd love to hear from you. Okay, so I created this infographic. Everyone will get it. How to network effectively on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has literally changed my business, my All my past clients have come directly from LinkedIn, cold prospecting. Events as well, but I mean, like the last, I'd say 6 have been directly from LinkedIn. The first thing you want to do, and we've discussed this, is knowing your focus, so knowing your why, that target. And then something really simple, you want to search and connect with people on LinkedIn that fall into this target, that fit into your focus. So you can literally search on LinkedIn with a free account, keywords, specific industries, organizations, or really any like niche information. And don't worry about sending a specific message yet. Just literally hit connect. So what I'd like everyone to do, if you have the LinkedIn app or if you have it on your computer, open LinkedIn up. I'll give you guys a few seconds. Type a keyword that you're interested in. Filter for second connections. And if you have a question on how to do this, feel free to reach out to me, send me a message right now, or you can even email me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and ask me. And so after you filtered for this keyword or the job title, organizations, and second connections, literally just hit connect on the first 20 people you see. Just connect with them. Don't worry about sending a message. Now you'll have a higher connect rate if you spend some time building your profile out to relate to your brand. So this is where some work comes into what do I want to be on LinkedIn? Who do I want to be on LinkedIn? But even if you don't have that built out of a profile, just hit connect with 20 people. You will at least get a couple. This is when you send a short message to ask to have a call. This is now when you engage with them, liking their activity, sharing something they posted, and then sending them the message to connect for a call. You will have, this is so much easier than spending time crafting an individual message to each person that might connect with you. Remember, we're looking for the connectors. That you will have less stress, to be more likely to do it. You can do this literally every morning when you wake up, and then you can block some time that just says, send outreach message to new connections. So highly recommend this practice. And then afterwards, that's when that message comes in. That's when that template message that I shared comes in. So you engage with them, you send them a short message, and then you have that call, you connect with them. You prepare those questions, you lead with curiosity. You talk about your focus, your experience, you share your stories. Make sure you're keeping to the time that you allotted, the 20 or 30 minutes, be respectful. If it ends on a high note, even better, then you can just connect with them again, even the next week if you want to. Then follow up on the things that they talk about. Ask for what you want. And then make sure that you're building the relationship because it doesn't stop after that first call. Track every single one of your connections. Make important notes on to-dos. Set time aside to follow up, to build that relationship. And man, if you really want to make a difference, like give people more of an audience, give them more connections, introduce people. Like even like once a month, go through your networking list and say, who can I connect someone else to right now? That will be a game changer. Okay, I'm happy that we had some time to go over that. I know there might be some questions in the audience. But real quick, connect with me on YouTube and LinkedIn. If you want to enter a raffle, I'll be raffling off a consulting session, a coaching session, and a free workbook that I've created. If you're interested in learning more about coaching, you can just schedule a time to chat with me. I'm even just willing to have chats either way. I'm putting these links in the chat box. And now, okay, I'm opening up the floor. Who would like to ask a question? Basically, I'm unmuting everybody. You can unmute yourself again, turn video on, feel free to just jump in and engage. Thank you, by the way. If you don't have any questions, I really appreciate you being here. Feel free to sign off. If you want to send your questions in the chat and don't feel like talking, that's fine as well. Any takeaways, top of mind?
Hey, Dr. Ritter, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, my name's Drew. Thanks for hosting this webinar. I found it really helpful, and I think that the last infographic that you just shared about how to kind of do quick connections on LinkedIn and then build a relationship with the people who want to connect with you, it resonates with me a lot because it becomes frustrating to try to connect with people who never connect with you back. And then you feel like, oh, am I a bad person? Did I do something wrong? But I think this takes a lot of the expectation away, and it just becomes more of a strategic act that you can start building relationships from. So I just want to thank you and acknowledge you for that awesome tip and hard work that you probably put in to come up with that awesome infographic.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And when I first started networking, that was not the strategy that I used. And I would spend like hours putting time slots, sending personalized messages. And it was just like, this is not working. And it wasn't working because I wasn't connecting with the people that wanted to connect. And that was just like, that's partially serendipity, right? It's partially like this person's at a place in their life where they have time to connect with individuals. They feel like they want to add value, but it's also because you're consistent. So you have networking set into part of your schedule. So then that serendipity can happen. So you can find that person at the right time. And I've developed like lifelong mentors from that, not just clients and professional relationships and friends, but like people that literally I never would have thought that I would have had access to. And now it's such a great time to connect with those dream people too, because they're home. Like they're not going out to dinner all the time. They have less to do. And they might also be feeling like they want to get back more.
You know, I can give you a quick story about how I just used LinkedIn last week to connect with a dream company. So there's a Silicon Valley high tech company that I have my own consulting practice, and I've really been dying to do business with them. So I was connected with the CEO, and I just messaged him on LinkedIn and said, hey, I've got some data you may be interested in. I have an idea of how we can move the needle during this time of disruption. And he said, what do you want to tell me? And so I just typed in 2 sentences. And he said, all right, let's talk this weekend. He said, I'm too busy during the week. Can you do a Zoom call on Sunday? And I said, absolutely. So I was all ready. So last Sunday, I was just on the Zoom call with this big Silicon Valley CEO. And before I prepped I watched all his videos online. I knew everything about him. I knew what metrics they had. I knew what their golden circle was. I knew what their why. So I just pitched right to him. And he's like, this is awesome. I'm going to connect with my executive team next week. And you guys move right to contract. I'm good with this. And
that's awesome.
Boom, 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 right on LinkedIn, just like that. And he's
So
like, thanks
cool.
for meeting on Sunday. I'm like, no problem. What am I doing? Nothing anyway. So boom, just reach out. Like you said, he was home. He was home in a t-shirt. Mm-hmm. So he didn't care. He just talked to me.
And that's
important. I would never get talk to somebody like that before.
It's so important to note too. I think what you said is that the weekend. I think very often we turn off that professional brain when we're done with work. We think, I'm not going to work. But what if we spent some time connecting with people a little bit later on in the evening, potentially, or on the weekends? I think, integrate your professional life into your personal life in a way that is seamless. And also, are people more likely to respond? Like, are certain executives more likely to respond early morning or later in the evening? You don't know, so test things out. Because you may catch people when they're actually on their phone looking at LinkedIn more than you would at like a noon or 1 or 2 p.m. time.
Yeah, I couldn't believe he replied to me, but we went back and forth for a couple of days on LinkedIn, and we moved right to email and then set up the appointment. So it works. It can happen.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And congrats.
Thanks. I'm excited.
I was going to say something to Drew. I've been going door to door for the census, and it's been an eye-opening experience. And for every 10 people that I visit, I get nobody answering the door, but a few people do. And of those people, like 2 of them are going to be crabby as heck. But one thing and they don't want to help me out anyway. And, at first it was kind of, a little bit rough. Like, what did I do wrong? And it wasn't me. And I just realized that if I could move on to the next house and just put that person, that rejection or whatever behind me and just move on to the next one, I've forgotten about it within like 30 seconds of the next. And usually the next person I meet is like the kindest person ever. So it kind of like balances out. And it's like for every, misfire with, one connection, there's going to be something positive down the pike. So I wouldn't take anything personally and just keep going forward. and don't look back to the failed attempts. It's not about you, really. Just it's not the right time for them, and it's fine.
And I will tell you, in the years, and thank you, Carla, for sharing that. I really do appreciate that. That mindset's really important. In the years that I've spent networking, I've only had one, maybe two really bad like responses. And nothing came of it other than someone saying like, and this was literally just me being like, hey, do you want to connect? I'd love to touch base. And someone just like 2 paragraphs of just swear words. And like this, that was it. And for me, it was like, this makes no sense. This doesn't reflect anything on me. I feel bad. I wondered what that person was going through. But literally in all the years that I spent networking, I've had 2 experiences like that probably. And so most of the time you'll get no thanks, or someone ignoring you, or potentially the best conversation that you've had in years. That could literally change your life. It could get you a job, could find you a partner, could give you priceless information, it could create a mentor. There's so many things that can occur from just putting yourself out there just a touch more and having those conversations. So we are over 7:02. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I will offer the floor up for one more question. If not, I'd love to hear everyone's voices as they sign off, saying bye. I appreciate you being here. I will send a follow-up message as well. And do we have another question before we pop off? Shaking heads, no?
Just quick question.
Yeah.
I guess my biggest problem has always been the follow-up, and you offer some really great advice on how to do effective follow-up. Do you have any tips on how to, I guess, maintain your emotional energy as you're going through this follow-up process? Because that becomes like, outside of tracking, which does help organize the follow-ups, but when you're following up with like 50, 75 people, do you have any strategy on how to follow up with the most purposeful people?
Well, the comments specifically, like, and when you say emotional energy, do you mean how do I stay motivated during this process?
No, I mean, how do you stay connected with everybody, and you're being pulled in different directions, and you're kind of like deliberating so much of your time to just connecting with people and not putting enough time maybe into other skill sets that you need to develop?
Mm-hmm. So specifically for follow-up, for one, it's giving yourself enough time between follow-ups. I mean, to be really relevant to an individual, you don't need to be in front of them on a weekly basis, especially if you're connected on some sort of platform online. They'll see you, you'll see them, you can hit a like. That's like literally liking someone's post is follow-up in itself most of the time, unless they have thousands of followers, or sharing something that they posted, and which in itself is follow-up. It's not always having a conversation once you've made that initial meet. But spacing it out, hundreds of people that are on my follow-up lists, and if I get to them once a quarter, I'm really happy about that. If I get to them once in half a year, I'm really happy about that too, because unless there's someone that you really want to build a close relationship with, like you want them to be a mentor, business partner, even a client, I would say, it's not that critical. It's not mission critical to be in front of them all the time. But then, so 2 things: one, space out the time that you feel you have to connect with them, but then also maybe decrease the amount of energy you're putting into the follow-up in itself. So make it easy for you, like Google Alerts. Make it easy for you, like something that they posted on LinkedIn or Facebook. Hopefully that might help a little bit. Okay, awesome. So watch your inboxes, everybody. I'll be sending the recording, the slides, so you can have all those templates and examples. Feel free to connect with me. Any follow-up questions, if you like those templates, if you even want a sample Excel spreadsheet for tracking, let me know. I love having conversations. I love connecting. Thank you, everybody.